Midnight News coming to you live from Algiers. I'm your host Miriam Zien, and here are your top stories for tonight. The US vetoes the UN resolution for full membership of Palestine and blocks recognition of Palestinian statehood amidst ongoing war. Coming up next, Israeli occupation committed 7 massacres in Gaza, leaving 71 dead and 106 injured in the past 24 hours. And Iran urges de-escalation in the Middle East and blames the Zionist regime for regional tensions. Welcome again to the program. We start with the latest news as the United States has vetoed a draft resolution tabled by Algeria to the United Nations Security Council demanding full UN membership to the state of Palestine. With its veto, Washington blocks the world body's recognition of a Palestinian state. 12 out of the 15 members of the Security Council voted in favor of Algeria's resolution. The US voted against, while the UK and Switzerland abstained.
The result of the vote is as
Following UN Security Council failure to pass a resolution to grant the state of Palestine full membership in the UN, Algerian permanent representative to the UN, Ammar Ben Jama', reiterated the right of Palestine for full membership in the UN, adding that the Security Council will reconsider again the question of admission of Palestine again.
Again, on behalf of the Arab Group, of the OIC, and the non-aligned movement, and also all peace-loving member states, I'm deeply grateful to all those who voted in favor of the resolution we submitted. The overwhelming support for the application of the State of Palestine sends a crystal clear message. The State of Palestine deserves its rightful place among the members of the United Nations. To those who were unable to support the admission of the State of Palestine today, we really hope, they will have to do so next time, when the Security Council will reconsider the question of admission of Palestine again. Yes, we will return stronger and more vocal, and we will be backed by the overwhelmingly majority of the General Assembly of the United Nations.
Ammar Ben Jama' also said that Algeria's efforts will not cease until the state of Palestine is granted full membership in the UN. Let's take a listen.
As President Al-Majid Tebboune of Algeria has said, Algeria's efforts will not cease until the state of Palestine becomes a full member a full member of the United Nations.
Also, Russia's permanent representative to the United Nations criticized U.S. veto following the vote, saying that Washington is now a barrier for full UN membership in the UN. Here is Vasilina Bensia.
Having for the fifth time since the beginning of the exacerbation in Gaza their veto, they have once again demonstrated what they really think of the Palestinians. For Washington, they do not deserve to have their own state. They are only a barrier on the path towards realizing the interests of Israel. For that reason, the United States is ready to the last to turn a blind eye to the crimes of Israel against the civilians in Gaza.
Palestinian presidency said the U.S. veto is unfair, immoral, and unjustified and defies the will of the international community, which strongly supports the state of Palestine obtaining full membership in the United Nations, as the majority of countries in the world recognize a Palestinian state since 2012, when the United Nations General Assembly voted to raise the status of Palestine in the United Nations to observer state status. Palestinian presidency also affirmed that this, and I quote, aggressive U.S. veto reveals the contradictions of U.S. policy, which on the one hand claims to support the two-state solution, while it prevents the international institution from implementing this solution through its repeated use of the veto in the Security Council against Palestine and its legitimate rights. And for more insights into this topic, we're joined tonight by Mr. Bilal Saab, Associate Fellow at Chatham House from Washington. Good evening, Mr. Saab.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. First, Mr. Saab, how do you view the importance of the Algerian draft resolution granting Palestine full membership in the United Nations?
Algeria's resolution is in no way surprising because it's fairly consistent with Algerian diplomacy. It's politically significant. It's powerful symbolically. It's moral. It's laudable. Let's be perfectly honest. It's not going to lead to the creation of a Palestinian state. But I'm the record books now. I'm on the right side of history. So it was still important for Algeria.
Right, but following the veto of the USA, what will be the results and the repercussions on the Palestinian issue, the Palestinian cause following this vote, in your opinion?
Yeah, so the fact that the resolution didn't pass obviously is profoundly disappointing, and it's not, to be honest. But at the end of the day, I will submit to you that it will not have drastic repercussions on the course of the war in Gaza, overall issue of Palestine, or immediate matters tackled diplomatically are the likelihood of not Rafah, and of course the very diverse situation. Those are forefront of the crisis in Gaza, frankly, more than the broader, more long question of statehood.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Saab, the U.S. repetitive vetoes of the UN Security Council resolutions calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and the full membership of Palestine in the UN run against the international community's will. Isn't the U.S. afraid to tarnish its image and to lose credibility at the international level by hampering any action likely to stop the bloodshed in Palestine?
Well, it's not exactly like the uncharted territory. The United States made a decision a long time ago to live with the consequences of its diplomacy regarding the Palestinian question. I'm not sure really to change anything about U.S. foreign policy regarding the Palestinian question, but I'm slightly optimistic because the political environment in Washington changed, frankly, over the past couple of years. And what I mean, there's now a chorus of younger folks in the United States, progressive base, who have very strong Palestine will go very much traditional U.S. foreign policy. Now, will those views ever create a strong force to cause adjustment to policy? I have no idea, but things are changing. Views of American
Mr. Saab, it looks like the network is bad a little bit. We're going to have to cut this interview. Thank you very much for your time and your insights.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Earlier on Thursday, Algerian Foreign Minister Mr. Ahmed Attaf said that talking about full membership of the State of Palestine in the United Nations means representing the Palestinian issue on its true origins and foundations and shedding light on its essence that does not accept distortion. Mr. Attaf, in his speech on Thursday before members of the UN Security Council during a session on the situation in the Middle East, stressed that the failure to activate the Palestinian historical right approved by the international community is considered the direct reason for prolonging the life of the Arab-Israeli conflict and the main reason for the lack of security and safety in the Middle East region.
We are talking today about granting the status of full membership to the State of Palestine within our organization, which means that we are going to re-examine the Palestinian cause upon this solid basis, which means that we're going to shed light on the very essence of this, which cannot be defigured, cannot be altered, cannot be tested. What do I mean by essence? What do I mean by its substance in this way? I mean its historic and legitimate right for the Palestinian people to create an independent, sovereign state. This is a historic right which has not been implemented. And the lack of implementation of this right is the cause of the prolongation of this Arab-Israeli conflict. This is the cause of the lack of security and safety in our region, a region which hasn't known peace for over 70 years. This is a historic right that Israeli occupation today stubbornly rejects and torpedoes at its very basis. Israeli occupation clearly and unequivocally rejects this and does everything it can to eradicate it. And it does this unscrupulously.
The Algerian foreign minister stressed in the context that Gaza has revealed the goals of the Israeli occupation, which are grouped under the title of liquidating the Palestinian issue.
With no qualms, Gaza, in its resistance, has shown the aims of Israeli occupation fully, whether this be visible or not, in order to liquidate the Palestinian cause. This is why this has been done, and to hinder our national project with regard to this Palestinian cause. Nobody is unaware of the fact that the genocidal war in Gaza and the suffocation upon the West Bank and the settlement and annexation policies upon Palestinian territories, as well as occupied Jerusalem and the campaign of forced displacement upon Palestinian people, are continuing, without forgetting what is known as the Israeli arrangements following the war in Gaza. All of this are succeeding steps as part of a broader and much more dangerous Israeli plan. This Israeli plan wants to resuscitate and bring into being the greater project of Israel, which is to eradicate the foundations of a Palestinian state.
The head of the Algerian diplomacy, Mr. Attaf, also stressed in his speech that the gravity of the danger that the Palestinian issue is experiencing today places the UN Security Council with a historic responsibility to impose the two-state solution. Let's take a listen.
This situation is dangerous, the situation facing the Palestinian cause. This Council has a historic responsibility and a decisive one. A decisive responsibility which is essential. That is the responsibility to act immediately, to impose the two-state solution and to safeguard the foundations of the creation of a Palestinian state. The two-state solution is facing imminent mortal danger. I repeat, the two-state solution is facing imminent mortal danger. We must save this solution before it is too late, which means granting the status of full membership to the State of Palestine, to safeguard peace and stability, to safeguard security in the Middle East as a whole.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres renewed the call for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip to avoid an imminent famine and to prevent further deaths among the Palestinians, as he put it. In his speech before the members of the Security Council in a session on the Middle East, Guterres stressed the necessity of funneling the necessary humanitarian aid to the Strip, especially food, clean water and healthcare.
Miscommunication. But apparent progress in one area is often cancelled out by delays and restrictions elsewhere. To avert imminent famine and further preventable deaths from disease, we need a quantum leap in humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza. Food is essential, so are clean water, sanitation, and healthcare. Delivering aid at scale requires Israel's full and active facilitation of humanitarian operations, including through a functioning humanitarian notification system and improved and direct communications between humanitarians and military decision-makers on the ground.
Algeria is engaged in significant diplomatic efforts within major international organizations to support the Palestinian cause. From halting the genocide in the Gaza Strip to organizing a Security Council session to discuss full UN membership of the State of Palestine, these initiatives reflect Algeria's relentless commitment across regional, continental, and global platforms. Marwa Belaiwar has more details.
The intense fighting carried out by Palestinian resistance forces in their occupied lands for over 6 months is matched by equally resolute diplomatic efforts, which mirror the determination of the resistance military actions. Algeria made the decision some time ago to champion the Palestinian cause at the United Nations and remains steadfast in backing the Palestinian people who have endured the barbarity of genocide since October 7th. Following the instructions of the country's president, the Algerian diplomatic system is actively working to rally international support to halt the Zionist aggression against the Gaza Strip. Upon taking its seat in the UN Security Council in January, Algeria sought to echo the voices of Palestinian suffering. Its diplomatic mission to the United Nations convened multiple meetings to address the crisis in Gaza and explore ways to end the violence against its population, resulting in the drafting of a resolution demanding a lasting ceasefire on humanitarian grounds, which condemns the forced removal of Palestinians and demands a halt to the breaches of international law, along with the release of all detainees.
ستعود الجزائر.
Algeria will return to knock on the doors of the Security Council once again to put an end to the bloodshed in Palestine. We will never tire and we will never stop.
لا تكل.
Even after the US vetoed the draft resolution, Algeria remained committed to its efforts to end the bloodshed in Gaza, continuing its push from the Security Council platform. At last, the Security Council approved the Algerian proposal by passing a resolution that called for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and the release of all prisoners. A new diplomatic effort was launched in the Security Council through an Algerian initiative to grant Palestine full membership in the United Nations through a session of the UN Security Council. Persistent efforts to achieve Palestinian rights align with Algeria's vision, aiming to establish an independent state and a liberated population.
Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza said that the occupation committed 7 new massacres against families in the Gaza Strip, killing 71 and injuring 106 in the past 24 hours. The same source added that the number of Palestinians killed in Gaza due to the Zionist genocide since October 7 has now reached 33,970, with 76,770 injured. It's also worth mentioning that healthcare system is facing dire challenges, leaving over 730,000 people without adequate access to essential medical services in Gaza. The Ministry of Health in Gaza, represented by spokesman Ashraf al-Qudra, has accused the Israeli occupation of deliberately destroying the healthcare system in Gaza and North Gaza regions. The destruction of Al-Shifa Hospital has dealt a severe blow to healthcare services in the area, leaving over 730,000 people without adequate medical care. Al-Qudra has called for the urgent provision of field hospitals and specialized international medical teams to address the healthcare crisis. The Palestinian presidency called on the U.S. administration to clarify its position on what was published in the media regarding its approval of the Israeli occupation forces' invasion of the city of Rafah in return for allowing a limited Israeli attack on Iran. Palestinian presidential spokesman Nabil Abu Rudaina affirmed that allowing the invasion of the city of Rafah, where the majority of the displaced population of the Gaza Strip is located, will lead to a humanitarian catastrophe and may lead to a mass displacement. Moving on to Iran, Iranian Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdullahian has stated that Iran has communicated to the United States its desire to avoid escalating tensions in the Middle East. Abdullahian emphasized that Iran's actions are now intended to further complicate regional dynamics, placing responsibility on the behavior of what he referred to as the Zionist regime. Iran has reportedly conveyed messages to the U.S. through Swiss embassy in Tehran, stressing its commitment to regional stability. Algerian Army Chief of Staff General Said Shingriha received Admiral Robert Bauer, chairman of NATO Military Committee, on Thursday in Algeria. The visit involved discussions between the two parties, highlighting their strong partnership and productive dialogue. The Algerian Ministry of Defense stated that General Said Shingriha confirmed that military cooperation has advanced significantly, reflecting growth in both dialogue and practical cooperation between Algeria and NATO.
لقد أكمل التعاون بين الجزائر ومنظمة حلف شمال الأطلسي.
Cooperation between Algeria and NATO within the framework of the Mediterranean dialogue completed its 24th year last March, enabling the establishment of a solid and fruitful partnership between the two parties and creating a dynamic of consultation and dialogue, which is confirmed by your visit today. As for military cooperation, which forms the basis of this partnership, a careful reading of the outcome of the activities accomplished during these recent years shows that military cooperation between Algeria and NATO has witnessed a qualitative development, whether at the level of dialogue and consultation or at the practical level. Algeria will return to knock on the doors of the Security Council once again to put an end to the bloodshed in Palestine. We will never tire and we will never stop.
Participants in the diplomatic forum in solidarity with the Sahrawi people held in Algeria have issued an urgent appeal to the United Nations Secretary General to resume the peace process in Western Sahara without delay. They've called for the Sahrawi people's right to self-determination to be respected and for an end to what they perceive as political obstacles perpetuating colonialism in Africa. The forum stressed the need for continued efforts to garner support for resolving the Sahrawi issue. Ladies and gentlemen, that was it for tonight's edition. Thank you for watching and bye-bye for now.